And thank you everyone for coming and spending a little bit of your Tuesday night with us here at PRSA Chicago. Is really excited that you're here. I'm going to echo for those of you that are just joining that we are in gallery view tonight because we're here for a really interesting and hopefully thoughtful, insightful, and roaring discussion about managing chaos and tricks and tips to get the most out of your professional development. I am Naomi Adams-Bada. I'm the president-elect here at PRSA Chicago. So extending everyone a warm welcome. And before we got started, I just wanted to thank our sponsors who are Celebrity Focus, the Grossman Group, Edelman, Zeno Group, Business Wire, Kemper Lesnick, Current Global, Golan, News Exposure, and DePaul. So we're really grateful for all of our partners and sponsors and appreciative of them all here at PRSA Chicago that help to make programs like this and events like this possible. So thank you all for coming. We're really excited for our conversation tonight, and I'm sure like many of you are feeling this as well. These last few years have really upended many of the ways in which we work. So especially for knowledge workers, the norms and the systems that many of us became accustomed to, working from home or hybrid work really became the norm. Executive presence and team visibility actually for many of us is what we're seeing right now, showing up in a box of faces or names. And as things start to return to normal, or at least in person in some events, how do we show up? How do we connect with our coworkers, our clients, our partners? How are we visible to our teams and our bosses? And how do we create impact within our organizations, especially for some of us that are maybe meeting teams or team members or bosses for the first time, or clients for the first time, or maybe the first time in person? So how do we get the most out of our day-to-day? How do we manage the chaos, and how do we grow as professionals? And to answer some of those questions and offer those tips and tricks that we promised you, I'm really excited and delighted to welcome our panelists from Sanduina. So I'd like to introduce Azalea Spate, who is a certified professional coach and certified professional diversity coach. Azalea, wave for the group. Also Melissa Thornley, who is a leadership consultant and certified professional coach focused on emotional intelligence. Welcome, Melissa. And also from Sanduina, the founder of Sanduina, Bridget Lorius, who is here and may chime in along the way. And Bridget and her team are also giving away some coaching sessions. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we're all very excited to hear about that too. So thanks to the entire Sanduina team. So we're going to start with some questions for our panelists, but also a reminder that the chat is open. So if you have questions or comments along the way, if you react to something that you hear, please put it in the chat. We'll be monitoring that and we'll either answer it in real time or save some time to sort of come back to those questions. But I'm going to kick things off with a question for Melissa. And it's actually a question that I've asked myself many times or at different points in my career. And so what is, Melissa, what is career coaching? Who needs it and why? And is it something that's really beneficial for people at all levels, or is it just something that top executives get? And how is it different than maybe some of the professional development and mentoring that people can get through their employers or workplaces? And is talking to a coach the same thing as talking to a HR professional? So I know that was quite a few things to talk about, but we'd love to hear more about coaching, and I'm turning it over to you now.
Yeah, no, thanks. Those are all great questions, and they're all kind of in the same little pod of one question. What I'll say is a lot of times when we think about career coaching, we might think about career changing, or that time when you're getting out of college and you're trying to decide what you want to do with your life and who you want to be when you grow up, or when you have your midlife crisis and you do the same thing, or if you do it over and over again throughout your life. So sometimes we'll think about career coaching in that terms. And then there's executive coaching, which sometimes we think, oh, okay, yeah, the muckety muck that has C in their title. CEO, CFO, CCO, et cetera. You think, okay, well, it's for them. But in reality, professional coaching or executive coaching can be really beneficial at all different points. Early in our careers, we're trying to understand how to lead ourselves. We're trying to understand our strengths and our values and where we can best kick off kick off our careers and even sometimes help making decisions and understanding how we make decisions, right? So early on, it's really about leading ourselves and how to be like the best individual contributor we can be. Later on, we might start leading other people. We might start leading a small team or mentoring other people. Most of the time, you're not going to learn how to do that from work, right? You're getting promoted because of the skills that you have for the job that you're doing. And then they give you a promotion and all of a sudden, boom, you've got like work babies that you are there to lead and manage and help grow. So that's another point. When you start to learn to lead others, that's a great time to have a coach so that you can start developing those skills. Now, this is where, like to your point, Naomi, there might be some professional development that comes through at your organization. Maybe they've got a leadership cohort or some trainings. Those are great for peer-to-peer learning. Sometimes you might not feel, you might not always feel safe to share some of the situations that you have if they're very political or if they're sticky or if they trigger other things in your life. You might want to have somebody one-on-one. So that's another reason to work with an external coach. The other thing that I would say, and then I'm going to kick it over to Azalea about coaching, is that sometimes people think it's therapy. It's not therapy. Right now, there might be therapeutic aspects to coaching. You know, we look at values and mission and purpose and all of that. So there may be a therapeutic aspect of it, but it's definitely not therapy. Have your therapist and your coach and the rest of your board of directors. We all deserve our own board of directors. Azalea, what would you add anything to that?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you covered almost all aspects of coaching. I think in my experience, I've also had the opportunity to coach individuals who just don't know what they want to do next, who are not happy in their current role, who've experienced challenges, or maybe they feel like they've hit the ceiling and they say, I like the career path that I'm in, but how can I evolve? How can I reinvent myself? How can I recreate a new career field using the same skills or maybe enhancing the skills that I already have at my fingertips? And so career coaching offers you the opportunity to talk through and grapple and plan and even make some really, really hard decisions about what's the next level in your professional endeavors. And so it doesn't have to be as clear cut and as defined. You just need to know, as you embark upon career coaching, that you don't want to make a decision without having all of the information about what you truly want to do and then what's available to you, but most importantly, how you go about doing it. So career coaching is really like developing a roadmap that allows you to make the next decision about where you want to go professionally.
Great. So it sounds like a coach is somebody who can really see you outside of organizational silos or constraints. It can help you sort of connect dots to the skills or some of the things that you have that might be transferable or applicable to other areas, and also to help you probably identify some blind spots or areas for growth in a way that perhaps your individual manager or team may not do at the office. So that all sounds very fantastic. I think we wanted to again encourage people to drop any questions or comments into the chat. We're happy to talk about that. And Kevin just launched a poll. So the question is, have you ever thought about using a career coach? And we can't wait to hear the answers.
Coming in at a pretty mixed clip here. We're trending high toward yes.
So while we're tabulating the poll, I was wondering, as a follow-up question to the team, are there some maybe hard and soft skills that you can talk about that coaches can help people kind of work through? Or what are some of the things when you have a new client or somebody that comes to you for the first time that hasn't had a career coach? What are some of the things that they might work on, or some of the top things that you work with people to sort of enhance their presence or their communication skills? What are some of those things?
Azalea, do you want to kick off this one since I kicked off the last one? I'll go either way, whatever you want.
Sure, no problem. I recently had a session with a young lady who was trying to determine, after having starting a family, you know, what she would do next. She likes her work and she loves, of course, what she has been able to accomplish. But now with this new little one, what do I do next? And so we went through a practice where we talked about how she would transition into a role or the kind of role she envisions herself having as the perfect role, whether or not it is accessible to her right now or whether or not it exists. What would that perfect role look like? What does that dream job look like? And then we kind of backwards mapped. We talked about the skills, we talked about the connections, we talked about the resources, we talked about the opportunities and the foundation that she would need to be able to access that. And then along the way, there are all these little touch points and all these small, I would say like gas stations or rest areas where we could consider, well, this is where I could land for 6 months to a year, or maybe I could do something like this for 2 or 3 more years as I eventually work myself towards that perfect dream job. So it's never about creating a way directly to the dream job, but really taking a look at what I can do as I make my way to where I really want to be. So that's one strategy that I always use to have folks really stop and think, while that is the ultimate, what could you do leading up to the ultimate that would bring you joy, that would be impactful, and of course, help you make some really good money.
Love it. Love it. Did you?
And can I just pile on here to
Yeah.
Azalea, because I know exactly who she's referring to. And this young woman, in addition to all of the things that Azalea just shared, she was feeling really shaky in terms of her confidence. She wasn't feeling like she was walking in her power. She wasn't feeling like she was qualified for the jobs. Well, no, that's not true. She felt she was qualified. She didn't feel like she had the tools to communicate how qualified she was for some of these other opportunities that she was interested in. So I just want to reinforce that is a very specific skill that Azalea reinforced and amplified for this young woman. She gave her the confidence to get out there and position herself as a qualified candidate. She's had a number of interviews since, and she said she's feeling like incredibly proud of how she showed up for those interviews. So I just wanted to pile on there, Azalea.
I love the pylon. That's going to happen a lot with the
Yeah, it
three,
is
with some of us up here. It's a pylon of love. Yeah, what's interesting is almost anybody that comes to coaching is going to have a gap, right? They're going to be noticing, okay, I want to be here and I'm here, right? So figuring out what it is that's going to narrow that gap for them and get them the results that they want, whether they're results of relationships or emotional or positional. It could be skills, it could be career focused, but a lot of times it does come down to relationships, because as we're looking for better results in our life, we have relationships that help us grow our influence. So discerning also, I come from the school of Spice Girls coaching. So when people talk about what they want, I ask them, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And then I will go underneath it and underneath it. When somebody's like, I want to have a baby, great. What about having a baby do you really want? Are you into it for the diapers? Are you into it for the sleepless nights? Like, what is it about that child that you actually really want? No, you want family. So then we can understand our values better. And then to Azalea's point, we're not going to get necessarily that magic thing that we want right away. And let's be honest, some of us will not necessarily get the exact thing that we thought that we wanted. And we might be finding things along the way that we wanted even more, that are filled with those values that we actually get to understand and deepen. And that actually is one of my favorite parts of coaching, is not like, hey, here's the target, we hit the target. Sure, that's fun. I like hitting the targets that are unexpected targets that nobody would have ever expected, right? That's part of the juice for me.
Thank you all for sharing that. And I don't know if everybody got the pop-up poll results, but I'll just sort of summarize them here. It sounds like most of us are interested or could definitely use a career coach. 67% said yes, and 28% said would consider. So I think it definitely sounds like a really good option, especially when I know that during the pandemic and after the pandemic, I really started to question a lot of different aspects of my life, right? And so where do I want to end up? What kind of career path and environment is right for me? I think those are questions that existentially we think about as humans, but there are moments in our life and throughout our careers that maybe those are more poignant than others, in which coaching could really benefit someone. Or as it was referenced as well, looking for a job or positioning yourself for a job or a role that maybe you don't think you have the confidence or the language to apply or advocate for. So I think those are really, exciting opportunities. One of the things that you just mentioned that I wanted to come back to and ask a question about, I think this group would really benefit, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about what are some of the tips and tricks that people can think about for developing and sustaining relationships across their organizations, whether it's with clients or partners, others in their ecosystem, advocates, friends, mentors. What are some of those skills, especially as we're morphing, many of us are morphing back from these Zoom boxes into real life engagements? Could you all talk about that? And Melissa, Azalea, which one of you would like to take that question first?
I'd be happy to take that question first. I actually had a coaching session this morning with a direct report of mine who is struggling in some work-based relationships, particularly with her team. And one of the things that we discussed, I really took some time to talk to her about maintaining emotional constancy, right? So your team is kind of taking you through some challenges, but you as the leader really have to take a step back and make sure that you're remaining emotionally constant. Also, we talked a little bit about going high when they go low. We also talked a little bit about not always having to not always taking over the airtime, but sharing airtime and space, not taking things personal as folks share with you, but really internalizing what's being said and taking a look at how you can improve in your leadership and in your relationships. It's really difficult in this, I don't want to say post-COVID, but maybe like post-pandemic era where folks are really trying to grapple with where they are. And sometimes emotionally, they may not be the nicest individuals, or they may not be as clear and concise in their communication. And sometimes their intentions may not be what we intended or what we desired for them. And so I really am coaching individuals to take a step back, consider the atmosphere that we are all in, and really work to ensure that however you show up and however you communicate, you want to leave an interaction as best as possible. You want to leave it better than you entered in. So if that means taking the high road, you take the high road in the moment, and you can always circle back to share anything that may have rubbed you the wrong way or left you feeling a little offended. I also encourage folks to really take a moment to think about their intent versus impact, right? We think that we're intending to say a certain thing or be a certain way in a relationship, but sometimes we have a different impact. And we don't always want to acknowledge when folks share with us that something we said or did gave a certain impact. We have to start paying attention to that if we want to preserve these workplace relationships or any relationship. And so I certainly encourage folks to really take the temperature of how people are responding to the way they show up, how folks are responding to interactions with you. And then think about whether or not your impact was the intended impact. And if not, you just kind of course correct. You keep trying it until you get it right. You be vulnerable when it's safe to be vulnerable. And then you make the change until you grow and get better. And so I think that relationships are important right now, but there's a lot of internal work that we are responsible for doing. And some of us aren't comfortable doing that responsible work. In this space, we got to get comfortable doing it.
Thanks, Azalea. That was really great. Melissa, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I loved and there's a question in the chat there that we can get to as well. The difference between intent and impact is huge. And especially, I like to assume good intent. I'm not going to say it hasn't gotten me into trouble, right? Because sometimes I can feel like I've been naive because I've assumed good intent. But it has served me more than it has hurt me. Now, when we don't land the way we want to land, it's okay. Like my big number one thing is grace. Grace for yourself, grace for others around you. Give yourself space, give yourself grace. Because if there's an unconscious impact, there's no way you could have known about it. You just can't. That's why it's unconscious. So when somebody brings you a scenario and makes an impact conscious to you, that is a gift, right? That's a gift. And so it's to be treated as such. And as Azalea said, keep doing better. Other ways I like to connect with people is to meet people where they are. So when you're looking at your team, how can you meet them where they are? Say you're not hitting the targets, or you're not hitting the schedules, or the level of work isn't really like up to the quality that you want, or you're getting client complaints, right? You look at your team, maybe your team's burnt out. Maybe everybody they've worked their fingers to the bone. So you want to meet them where they're at in order to help lift them up, right? In order to help them show up, hey, I know this is where we're at, and this is where I need you to show up. What can I do as your leader, or what can I do as your colleague, your teammate, to support you so that we can get the better results? Because we know we want them, right? We know we want them. So meeting people where they are and listening, being empathetic, it really, in this age where so much of our work is done remotely and or in a hybrid manner, we feel disconnected. We can't help it. And belonging is a biological need. We have a biological need to belong. So whatever you can do in your meetings, in your touch points, in your one-on-ones, through Slack, through whatever, any way that you can create an inclusive culture, an inclusive environment, belonging, I love that phrase you used, Azalea, emotional constancy, right? People want to feel safe. And because there's not a lot of places for people to feel safe. And safe doesn't mean that it's comfortable per se, but it's an open place to share and people feel like they're held. So I love that. But I don't want Azalea to miss this question. How do you circle back in a way that is honest, especially when things are bad and comfortable?
Great. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to kind of correct some of my fast typing grammatical errors there. I was pretty much saying that I put a practice in place, and I had this situation happen about 2 weeks ago. One of my direct reports was pretty rude and disrespectful in a meeting in front of their direct reports and others. And I really, really was offended by that. And so I took maybe 6 days or so. I sent an email after the interaction and I said, hey, this is how I felt a minute ago in the meeting, but I need some time to process it, and I'll circle back with you when I'm ready to talk. In the meantime, should you need anything from me, feel free to email me and I'll respond when I can, or you may talk to such and such and we can circle back. So about a week or so later, we circled back, and I started off by saying, thank you for giving me the time. I don't want you to respond. I just need to share this. I said how I felt. I talked about why I felt the way I felt and the impact that their intentions had on me. I then thanked them for the opportunity to take 6 days to process, because now I'm in a place where I can share with you how I felt without being emotional. But moving forward, this is how I will feel comfortable with us communicating. I'm not going to be in these kinds of meetings with you. When I say A, B, C, and D, I expect you as my direct report to do E, F, G. And we kind of went through the conversation that way. I was kind, I was professional, I was calm and constant in my approach, but I was still firm and very clear that I would not allow myself to be put in a situation like that moving forward. However, I continue to show up every day supporting this individual, responding to their questions, concerns via email and in person, but they are also clear that what happened before will never happen again. And whether or not it's made our relationship stronger, I cannot say, but it certainly has made our interactions more rewarding and beneficial, because we're getting the most out of the time that we spend together. There's no emotionality involved. There's no second guessing what the other person is saying or what they want or how they feel. I made that crystal clear in the beginning. And so I needed those few days to set aside my emotions and remove self from the issue. And I was able to just really direct it to what was said and what was done and how it made me feel. That's not easy to do, but with some practice, you can get a little more comfortable. And I decided that I was not going to be concerned about how they perceived me in that moment, because my truth was my truth and I just needed to get it out. And once I got it out, we were good to go. Now I was good to go. I hope they're good to go. They seem to be good to go, but I'm good to go. And we're moving forward. We're still getting the job done. We're still hitting goals and ensuring that we check all of our boxes. So it's worth a shot for those of you who are willing to kind of take that risk.
Thank you, Azalea, for sharing that. I think it just shows about the power of being candid and non-emotional, but also that gift of feedback, right? And finding a place to move it forward constructively. I think many of us, sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's at different points, we're responsible for managing our interactions with others, but certainly those of us that have direct reports. And often we're also managing up, right? For our bosses or other stakeholders, sometimes it's clients. Do you have some tips on how to apply some of that energy or some of that grace as you're thinking about managing up and down, or maybe even laterally with all of the different folks that we're re-engaging with, or building new relationships with people that maybe don't know us or don't know our work or don't know who we are in the world? Anything to add in those respects?
Well, one of the things I was going to touch on is the whole emotion part of it. Obviously, emotional intelligence is my jam. And so what I will first say is your emotions are critical to understand, and they are data. And when you feel them, feel them. Do not feel your emotions. A lot of times we have the misnomer of, hey, I don't want to get emotional. Okay, you don't want your emotions to drive you. You don't want your anger driving the car when you're in the passenger seat. Not at all. And if you get angry, that is awesome. Get angry, be sad, be upset, and look at what is causing this. Okay, I'm feeling a trigger right now. I'm feeling a trigger. Pause. Because what will happen is when we're triggered, we are going to react. Our instinct to react is going to be faster than our ability to actually process it. So if you just automatically have a thing, I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm going to look at this. Oh, if I'm angry, a value got stepped on. Either a value got stepped on or a value was not present. What value was that? Okay, cool. It was about respect. It was about collaboration with my team. It was about whatever the value is, right? Once you can name a value, you have a place to go, right? Because then it's not personal. It's not about the people that are involved in the situation. It's about the value. And is this a value that you have named with your team? Like, do you know if this is a value of the other person that other person shares? Well, first of all, if you don't know, find out. Like, know the values of your direct reports, know the values of your team, know the values of your supervisors and people leaders, and know the values of the organization, right? Where do they align? You don't have to agree on every single value, but there needs to be some alignment there. And then you can speak to each other. Hey, yeah, that's really important to me. It's important to me too. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, how can we fix this? What can we do to pivot here, right? So you're able to then support your team. You're able to support your direct reports. You're able to support your the people that are your people leaders. And once again, like all of this, just consider grace like dirt and oxygen. It's everywhere that you're standing and it's everything that you're breathing. And then I'm gonna volley it over to Azalea.
I'd like to pile on just a little bit about the grace piece. You know, over the course of the last 2 years, we've heard the word grace a lot. And I think that it makes absolute sense to be aware and utilize grace. But we also have to determine what grace means to us and how we define grace as a leader. Sometimes you can find yourself getting burnt out on the amount of grace you feel that you have given. And I challenge folks to really think about whether or not they have given grace in those moments when they feel burnt out. Grace is something that you willingly give or allow, and you expect nothing in return. Grace is the opportunity to allow someone to give you that right or soft jab, and you not take it personal and you not hold it against them. Grace is giving folks more time to complete a project, even when you know you've already set the deadline. Now, if them being late completing the project really impacts the overall job, there may not be grace there, but maybe there's grace in how you hand down the consequence, or maybe there's grace in how you have the conversation that they missed the mark. And so there are various elements to how we give grace. We're not just doling out opportunities for folks to step all over us, or for folks to not hold their end of the bargain, or for folks not to be accountable. But grace is really about, in the moment, deciding how much can I give without compromising myself or without compromising the goal. And so I can speak on that because I felt burnt out over giving grace. But then I realized I wasn't just giving grace. I was letting things fly and letting things go by and saying to folks, I got it, I'll take care of it, when that wasn't really the case. And so I had to take a step back and revisit how I interpreted grace and then how I delivered that grace. I encourage you all to do the same.
Oh my
I
gosh,
love
I'm sorry, I have to pile onto that, just one thing, because we could do a whole thing just on grace, because there's so much to it. And I think, and not always will there be a big gender difference on things, but I think when it comes to grace, like oftentimes that does happen. We will think that what we're doing is grace, and what we're really doing is taking on other people's emotional labor. Like, we're taking on other people's emotions. We'll be taking on emotional labor that actually isn't ours. When I feel like I am actually in a state of grace, first of all, where I find I most have to give grace is to myself, 9 times out of 10, because I'm beating myself up over not being perfect all the time, right? There's a perfectionism thing. So, grace to ourselves, obviously. And then when I'm giving grace to other people, it is not in lieu of consequences, right? You can be a gracious person and hold accountability. Right. That's one of my favorite phrases, gracious accountability. Yes, we are all going to treat each other with respect. And we also are all going to hold ourselves accountable to certain standards, whether they're the sales results, the schedule, the values of the team, whatever. We're going to hold ourselves accountable to that. And we're going to do it in a way that says, hey, you agreed to this. Oh, yeah, you agreed to it. Okay, you're breaking the agreement. So what are we going to do about that? How are we going to fix that? So I love really looking at how are we handling, like, how are we embodying and envisioning grace and what it is, because it's certainly not self-sacrifice, and it's certainly not taking on emotional labor that's not yours to take on.
I love that so much. I just sort of heard grace with boundaries and grace with accountability and grace to ourselves first, right? So that was really powerful. And thank you so much for sharing. I wanted to find out if there are any other questions sort of on this topic. And Bridget, did you have a question that you wanted to ask of the group, unless anybody had a question sort of on the grace portion of the program?
Yeah, my question is, like, I want to hear from these people. I can't help it. I want to reach into these boxes and ask Carolyn to share a little bit. I want to hear from Robert. Julie always has brilliance to share, but I would love if anyone is feeling courageous and brave. I think it would really help us to understand what challenges you're experiencing. What are you going through right now that maybe a coach could help you with? Anybody feeling?
I can go, Bridget.
Awesome.
I'm happy to ask, because it's something that I think about a lot of time, and I know a lot of people on this conversation or on this Zoom are at different stages of their careers, right? And I've had the opportunity to talk with you about this personally, but I think it's something that I really enjoyed, and a little bit sidestepping from some of the conversation that we had before, right? I'm at a different stage in my career where I'm constantly thinking about my personal wealth, growth, and contributions to an organization. And I think something that no one ever teaches you is how to make sure that you're compensated appropriately without going down the street to the different place and getting a different offer for more money and feeling like dirty the whole way down the road. And like, so in a different, when I had the opportunity to hear you speak before, I think there was something about like defining your worth, but positioning it as like a team success. I wonder if you could speak to that, and potentially for like, if you were to start from scratch, how do you go in and negotiate salaries? How do you make sure that you're getting the biggest bang from your buck? Particularly, and I know there's a lot of women on call. Like, there's also a gender gap thing that needs to be accounted for that I think probably you have input on. So, like, I wouldn't just, if anyone's got thoughts there. That's a lot packed into some questions, but whatever.
That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do, Kevin. Thanks for stepping up and sharing and asking. And I will again turn it over to the experts and the pros, but I can tell you again from a recent experience, Melissa, I'm just going to put it out there. Melissa is working with a young woman who was in an agency environment and feeling quite burnt and just ready to change and try something new. Because of Melissa's coaching and support, this woman found a new job and negotiated a salary that's 50% higher than what she was making, 50%. So I think it's very fair to pitch it over to Melissa for some actionable advice there. Certainly a big topic that we could spend an hour on and more, but I think these two women have some incredible tips to share there.
Okay, I'm going to laugh because this is one of those things that, man, I am so good at getting money for other people, and so sometimes when we are looking at these negotiation scenarios, you have, and actually always, you have to look at the bigger picture. So for example, it could be you're saving for a home. It could be you're saving to travel around the world. It could be that you're saving for a early retirement, saving to start a family and have flexibility so you can have the time off that you want to be with your family. There are a myriad different, you can just say, like, I want so much money because I want to save the Amazon, right? Like, money is freedom and choice. So when we connect into what the money means to us and the impact that we can have with the money, sometimes that is very helpful to create an empowering mindset. So any type of limited mindset is going to be an issue here. So you want to look at, okay, what are the results I'm getting in terms of defining my value? And value is not always going to be about the money. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's what's underneath the money. It's claiming your accomplishments. It's speaking up in meetings so that you're visible. It's when somebody, when you say something and then somebody else says the same thing that you just said 20 minutes later, you say, oh, that's so great that you heard my point earlier. I really appreciate you highlighting it for me, Jerry, or whatever. And you keep moving. So claiming value happens constantly throughout a career and constantly throughout moments in the day, right? So getting good at claiming value and negotiating value for yourself will serve you in every aspect of your day. I would like to hear some things from Azalea, because I know Azalea might have some tips.
Sure. Thank you. I couldn't echo more what you just said about claiming value. That was the first thing that came to mind when the question was asked. We must understand our own value. And until we get there, we're going to have that yucky, feel that Kevin talked about. Should we start looking outside of our current workplace for additional opportunities for more compensation? With that being said, once you have determined your value, it's always important to kind of just do some field research, figure out what folks are making out there, figure out how much they make at a certain year increment in their career, right? So 3 to 5 years, what are folks making in the salary? 7 to 10 years, what are they making? 15 and beyond, what are they making? Consider where you live. Consider the city and the state that you live in, and consider what the cost of living is in that area. Consider, once you do those things, then you have to consider your value, right? And as you come to the table, you are in any interview, you're not just trying to sell yourself, you want to convince. You want to show your value so much that they decide they need you, right? And once that happens, the negotiations are easy. So if you have not set up your interview where you can then come to the table and make a very clear and specific request, you may have some challenges there. The second piece that I want to add is that I have, in every job that I've applied for or I've gotten, I received exactly what I wanted in negotiations. Hear me. exactly what I wanted. It may not have been the exact salary, but I negotiated additional time off. I negotiated professional development. I negotiated a company phone. I negotiated this. Like whatever I could think of that would add value to my life. If money was an option for the company, but I really wanted to work there, I put it out there on the table. I've even negotiated a paid vacation before starting the job. So it's really about showing up with that confidence that Bridget talked about earlier. And sometimes where you are applying, if they don't see that value in you, you got to be strong enough to say, I'll take it for now and I'll do something else, or I'm not going to take it and I'm going to wait for the right opportunity because I am valuable. It will show up. It will show up. It depends on when the right time is. It depends on what you put into the process. And it absolutely depends on how you show up. You cannot show up second guessing yourself. You cannot show up with a bunch of ums and ahs. You cannot show up without exuding confidence, right? Not being, pompous, but being very confident, being able to show in numbers and possibly in anecdotal explanations why you are valuable. And when you kind of set the game up that way, it should be a slam dunk, right? It should be really easy. If it's the right job and it's the one for you, it should be really easy to get everything you want out of those negotiations. It takes practice. You don't always hit it the first time around, but we are all valuable. And when it's the right role for us, we deserve to get everything we desire.
That is a really great response, Azalea, and also Melissa, thank you. I actually had a follow-up question. I think you both sort of talked about getting a job externally, right? Is there a way to do that, to go back to your current organization or boss and build that same value proposition for your current organization? Is that something you'd recommend people do, or do they
So
need
I'm a little unclear. Are you asking if we use the outside opportunities to leverage inside stuff, or okay, I just want to make sure.
Instead of going outside, if you like
yeah.
your current role, is there an approach that you'd recommend people for negotiating more, a promotion, a salary increase, a bonus? Maybe it's a professional development or conference to go. What are some of those intangibles? Maybe a salary increase right now is not available, but there might be some other intangibles or other things that would be valuable to employees and make it worth to stay at your current job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the wish list, right? And however you want to create the wish list, if you want to do a dream board or vision board, if you want to keep Post-its everywhere, if you want to have lists, whatever, but really be creative, to Azalea's point about all the potential things that you could be asking for. Also, we all have a thing. Nobody really wants to talk about money, right? And if we're not talking about money, then we don't know what people are making. And one of the things that, we recently had an event at Soho House, and it was pointed out, different legislation that, it used to be against the law, and it used to be frowned upon to talk about salaries within an organization, and it still might be frowned upon. However, really having a good understanding, whether it's at your organization or through Glassdoor or through other colleagues, knowing what the going market is one thing. Oftentimes, I hate to say it, sometimes you do have to go externally to get the money. I've heard it time and time again, where I've been coaching leaders who have lost team members because they have gotten job offers, especially in today's job market, that have doubled their salary. And the team leader's like, I want to keep you. I know you're valuable, and I cannot get this process through corporate. Like, there's just no way I can. And no matter how much I hodgepodge, like I can patchwork quilt together like a compensation package for you, I might not be able to do that. So, and that's where, in the chats, there's the conversation about what actually really makes you happy. Like, if you're actually really happy at your organization and you leave for just the money, you have to understand that you're leaving for just the money. And if there is something else that you can create so you can continue there and you want to continue there, then that's great too. Knowing all of your options is a big thing, but it goes back to Naomi constantly claiming value all the time. In a meeting, in a one-on-one, in a whatever, and supporting other people around you to do the same thing. So one thing I will always start with celebrating a win with my clients. That's how we always start. And if you're in a meeting, you can do that. You can start a meeting. Hey, if it's a weekly stand up, hey, everybody, let's celebrate one thing. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be like, hey, I sweated it out during that client meeting and I didn't lose my cool, right? That could be a thing. I would celebrate that because I lose my cool all the time. So looking at different things to celebrate is another way that you can support other people claiming value and to create a culture of claiming value. Because when you can claim value, you also can claim permission to fail and do better the next time.
I love that so much, to claim value and create that culture of claiming value. And I think that's really not only for yourself, but to sort of share and teach with your team. That seems to be a really positive environment for everyone. I know there are 2 questions right now and we're running down the clock on time, believe it or not. This hour's just flown by and we want to save Kevin a few minutes at the end to make sure we give out prizes. So Robert, if you were there, you've had your hand up for a few minutes. Did you want to hop on and ask your question really quickly?
I don't really have a question. Just have a comment real quick. My connection to Chicago is, I don't know if anybody's ever gone to the Milton Olive Harvey College or the Olive Park in Chicago. He's the first African-American to be awarded the Medal of Honor in the Vietnam War. I put my information in the chat. He's dead, I'm alive. I helped carry him out of the jungle. I was there about 7 years ago for a reunion of 5 of us for the first time. I got a lot of value out of just listening to you guys chat. And thanks for letting me be on the show, on the Zoom meeting.
Robert, thank you so much for coming. We're really truly honored that you're here and glad that you could join us and really enjoy our conversation. And thank you. We really appreciate you too. Thanks so much. Moving on really quickly. Megan, did you have your hand up for a brief moment or was that? I saw her hand float up. There she is.
No, yes, hi. My question is just how to sustain relationships, with mentors or people that you look up to, just to keep the rapport going, because I know how hard that is, especially if we're not in person.
That's a really good question. It's something, if I'm very honest, that I have not done the best with over the years, but I find that anytime there's an interaction, I want it to be one that it's reciprocated in terms of what's given and what's being taken, right? So I'm not always calling or reaching out because I need help and I have a problem and I have an issue. I show myself to be a thought partner and supportive for them as well. I take every opportunity to celebrate their wins and celebrate their accomplishments. I take time to make sure that I'm just checking in to say, hey, and how's it going? Or did you see this article? Or what do you think about this thing? So I really want to show that mentor or that thought partner that the relationship isn't one way, but that I have something to add. I'm willing to bring things to the table. It's been really hard since COVID. I've had to challenge myself to start showing up to things more in person, not because I don't want to or because I'm concerned about COVID, but because I just got real comfortable doing everything at home. We're doing everything from my phone. So now when you get invites, it's like, oh, I really have to, try hard to show up. But that has helped me maintain those really strong relationships. When folks reach out and say, hey, are you available to do this? Are you available to do that? If I am, and if they mean something to me, I'll say yes. I'll make it very clear what my time frame is and what I can bring to the table. But I try really hard to show up when relationships and individuals are important to me. And doing that has helped to maintain and sustain really strong mentor relationships.
Thank you so much. This was so helpful.
Melissa, anything to add? I think we're getting to the end, winding down the hour.
We are running out of time. Hot questions, fiery questions, put them into that chat. You only have like next to 3 minutes left. What I would say is back to that belonging thing. We are it is biological. I will say it again, because I think we always forget. We think it's an emotional need. We think it's a social need, and it's not. It's biological. People can hear it in your tone of voice. People can see it in your eyes. People can notice the tension in your face or your hands. And because we are not with each other most of the time in an in-person situation, we are actually, as humans, craving that. So whatever you can do to create that bond, to upregulate yourself and think about, okay, how do I want to feel during this meeting? And how do I want other people to feel? Okay, I want to feel confident. I don't want to feel anxious, right? So I want to feel ease. I want to feel confident. I want to feel ease. I want other people to feel inspired. I want other people to feel empowered and that they have space and that they're important and valued. So when we focus on that, as well as the actual results that we're looking for, it becomes a game changer, right? Because people, we were talking earlier, because of Azalea, I think it's perfect time to model your sweater, your sweatshirt. But Dr. Maya, I think it's Dr. Maya Angelou that said, like, people remember, they may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I'm pretty sure that is Dr. Angelou, yeah? I'm sometimes bad at like transposing quotes, but it's true. So people will remember how you made them feel, and you want people around you to feel good. Why wouldn't you? So,
Azalea, any final thoughts?
This was really good. This was really rich. And I know there were lots of questions. I think one thing that I want to stress to each of you is the importance of building your confidence. And I have found that the best way to build my confidence is to sit with myself, kind of list out all of the things I know that I'm good at, all of the things other people have told me that I'm really good at doing, and all of the things that I have receipts to show that I'm good at, right? Sometimes we kind of toss those things to the side because someone else has told us that they're not valuable. We should revisit those things. And as you revisit those things, think about how you can reinvent yourself using those same skills and talents, right? Think about ways that you can enhance and evolve in this current climate with those gifts and talents and skills that you already have. And then when it's time to ask for more or seek new opportunities, do so with confidence. If your confidence isn't there yet, meaning if you get shot down and they don't say yes, it's no sweat, right? I'll try again. But if you think that you'll get shot down and you think that it's going to crush you, maybe you're not ready to go there yet, right? And so I really want folks to think about ways that they can build their own confidence. Consider what you know you are great at doing and build on that. If there was a way that I could just do interior decorating all day long, I would, but I can't. And resources are hard to come by in this market. So I got to look at my other skills and figure out how I can reinvent myself and evolve and do the things I love to do, the things that bring me joy. Once you get to the place of joy, compensation alone isn't fulfilling enough, right? It's all of the intangibles that make up who you are as a profession and how you move about your career that really fulfill you. So I just want to encourage you guys to get that confidence going and understand that you're valuable, and do your best as you show up. Just continue doing your best and know that you're worth it. Whatever it is you want, you are worth it.
Azalea, thank you so much. That was great. Really appreciate it. Melissa, thanks for all of your ideas and thoughts today. And Bridget, thanks for being here as well. Appreciate the Sanduina crew so very much for sharing this evening with us. And just thanks so much. We really enjoyed the time together. Thank you all for spending your Tuesday evening with PRSA Chicago.
No one leave yet.
I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. He's really got to close the loop with some exciting prizes. So thank you.
So we have 3 minutes left. We might go a couple minutes over. I did want to give Bridget the opportunity to talk a little bit about the democratization of Sanduina and coaching, in terms of how you guys are functioning a little bit differently. I'm putting you on a 90-second time crunch. And then while she's doing that, Melissa and Azalea, would you please put your LinkedIn profiles in the chats. I know Bridget's sharing her email address as well. But Bridget, I'll give you, 90 seconds to go through, and then we'll give out some prizes. I just want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, Kev, thank you so much. And again, thanks so much to all of you for making the time to be here tonight. It really was special for us to be here and spend a minute with you. As Kevin referenced, like really what we're trying to do at Sanduina is disrupt the market, right? Career coaching can be really expensive because it's so valuable, right? Like it's literally changing people's lives, unlocking growth, unlocking income. So it is valuable. But we are really trying to democratize access, especially for women, with our true North mission really being about closing the gender gap faster. So while coaching can often be $250 plus an hour, we are creating an ecosystem and a community of amazing coaches like Azalea and Melissa and Heather, who's here, and Julie, who is here, and Mavis, who is here. And all of these remarkable women are drastically reducing their fees to make it more affordable for people like us. So I please ask you to check us out. If you're interested, stay in touch. We're here to help. We'd love to help. And we especially love building up that confidence. Robert, it looks like you have a question, which I love.
I don't have a question. I just put something in the chat about Rolfing. And so Rolfing's a great human growth potential program that you may have never heard of, but I'm no longer keeping it a secret. So I just thought I'd throw it out there if anybody's interested.
Good for you. Thank you so much for that.
All right, prize time. Okay,
Let's
so
do
as you know, we are giving away some resume reviews and some coaching sessions, and how you're going to claim those. And Bridget doesn't know this yet. You're going to email, if I say your name, you're going to email the lifters at sanduina.org. And so let's just do that. And Bridget, I'll coordinate with you on who these people are. But we're giving away resume reviews complimentary to our friend Peggy Austin, Jamie Bourne, Kristen Gover, Catherine Ingram, and Kai Ip. Very exciting. These were selected at random, by the way, through a random number generator and associating numbers with that people's attendees on Excel sheet. So I'm being very up here. And then we're giving away coaching sessions to Megan Finucane, Michelle Jimenez, Abby Molinar, Carly Ridgefield, and Carolyn Torgensen. So if your name was listed, please email the lifters at sanduina.com to go through like that process, but I'll share this with Bridget as well and go out. And again, we're at 6:30. So thank you all very much. Go out, enjoy the cold weather here in Chicago. If you're here, I don't know. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll talk soon.
Kev, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I see my beloved Tristan LeGrand here on the phone too. I didn't see you earlier, Tristan. I just need to shout out to you. I'm so grateful to you for being here. Another Sanduina coach. That's all. Just didn't want that to go overlooked because I didn't see you.
Sounds
I see
good.
you. I see you
I have-
now.